for that warm welcome. It's very nice. Can you hear me? No?
Yes.
No? I have to speak closely, do I? Okay, I'll do my best. Thank you. Look, the reason I came here today was because Australia and Queensland are saturated with gambling opportunities. There's more poker machines, more gambling in Australia per capita than anywhere else on earth. That's why we spend more, nearly twice as much as the next highest spending country on gambling per capita every year. And that's not because Australians are somehow innate gamblers, it's because we have more gambling opportunities than anywhere else on earth. Australia is one of the few places where we have poker machines in every pub and club, and they consume enormous amounts of money. About $11.6 billion a year in Australia goes through poker machines. Now, casinos are often thought of as sort of glamorous James Bond type destinations. They're not. All you have to do is spend 10 minutes in that place over there to see exactly what they are. What they are is the focus of incredible harm. And most money that goes through casinos comes from poker machines. Usually around 70 to 75%, in some cases more than 80% comes from money put through poker machines. No one is flying from China to play the poker machines at a casino in Australia. Not at Crown Casino, not at the Treasury Casino, and certainly not at this new megalith which is going to be constructed here if the government has its way. Now, 2,500 poker machines, each making about 130 grand a year, is going to generate something in the range of $400 million a year in revenue just from the machines. The likelihood is that there'll be another 100 million or so from the table games, many of which are going to be automated, which means that they are effectively high roller poker machines. The high rollers aren't going to be using them though, it's going to be people from the suburbs. We also now know that the harms associated with gambling are roughly equivalent to the harms associated with alcohol misuse and abuse. Most of us know someone who's had a problem with gambling. We understand the impacts. The impacts aren't confined to the individual. Multiple other people are affected, and that includes harms such as mental and physical ill health, intimate partner violence. We know that where there are a lot of poker machines, there is more family violence. It's measurable just looking at police statistics. We also know that it's linked to suicide. We know that it's linked to the neglect and abuse of children, to bankruptcy and to other forms of crime, including fraud and, of course, physical crime. People rob banks to fund their gambling addictions. Now, the real problem with this is that it doesn't even pay off very much. In Queensland at the moment, the average tax rate on the 690 million or so that goes through the casinos every year, most of which comes from poker machines, is 14%. 14%. That's a pretty poor payoff for a government which is intent on inflicting this sort of harm on its community. What concerns me most about this proposal is that it will build a 2,500 poker machine casino in the middle of a rapidly growing city where lots of people are living under stress. There are strong relationships between people living under stress and the amount of gambling harm that they experience. People become addicted to poker machines. Poker machines have been designed over a long period of time to provide sort of psychological reinforcement which habituates people to their use. We now know that it stimulates the dopamine system in the brain, which is exactly the same mechanism of addiction for dangerous drugs and so on. So what we're allowing the government to do here, if this proceeds, is to inflict a focus of harm, a locus of harm on a population which can very much do without it. You already spend $2.5 billion a year on gambling in Queensland. This is not going to make things any better. It's going to inflict harm on the local people. The business model of high rollers from overseas is broken. Every city in the world has a big casino now. Why would Brisbane's be any more appealing than the ones that are in Singapore or the ones in Macau or the ones in Hong Kong or anywhere else? And the reality is that most of that money came from corruption or criminal activity. And when the Chinese government cracks down on corruption and criminal activity, the high roller market dried up by 30 to 40%. That's why Crown's in trouble and is pulling back. That's why every casino around the world has seen massive reductions in its revenue. So this is a corrupt business model. It gives the government a sugar hit of apparent development, things, cranes all over the city, couple of thousand jobs during the construction phase. But that sugar hit, as many of you who are parents will know, is followed by tears before bedtime. And the construction of this megalithic juggernaut is simply going to institute yet another unregulable institution, a gambling company that is too big to be regulated, which is going to dictate policy to the government for years to come, and which is going to have the consequence of inflicting immeasurable harm on the ordinary people of Brisbane without paying off either in tax or in the increase in tourism. So this concerns me greatly. That's why I decided it was a good idea to come up and talk to you today. I'm happy to talk to anyone, and I understand I'll be around at 5:30 for a workshop, so if people want to come and talk to me then, that would be great. So thank you for coming along. I'm glad you share my concern, and I look forward to defeating this project. Thank you very much.